afternoon, everyone. This is Priya Nandakrishnan. This is Rika. I work as a head of training in a company in Bangalore here, and I have totally around 21 years of experience in VLSI design verification. So today we are going to talk about ASIC verification. So ASIC itself, the word means application specification integrated circuit. So what does that mean is when you come up with a chip, for example, your phone, if you take, you all have a smartphone in your hand. So this smartphone, what it has to do basic some processes, right? What are the basic processes it can do? One, you need to have a call. So calling is an important feature. Messaging, nowadays WhatsApp, so downloading of lot of applications. So it consists of lot of processes which has to be done within a single phone has to do a lot of processes. So what it consists of is inside is nothing but a chip, an integrated circuit. So we will go details into that. My topic is completely why do we need a verification of a chip actually. So if you see VLSI, it is very large scale integrated circuit. In this picture depicts, if you see, go back, can you see a phone how it was in long years ago, and now how your phone is? What everybody wants a phone which is very small. The size should be small. It should be pocket friendly, and it has got all the features also in it. So if you see here how the volume of a thing which we are using, for example, a laptop or a phone or whatever it is, how the progress has happened. If you see in 1960s, the mainframe computer, it is huge. It's like an almara, if you can see. A Godrej bureau, if you can see, it's like an almara. So slowly it has come down to a workstation, then came a mini computer, then personal computer, which we were using in 1996. You see, it was a big thing actually. Then it came to a laptop. You have your smartphone now, and now in 2020, we are talking about small sensors which can happen. So that is how it is happening. How this is happening? Because initially the volume of the chip, if you see, is huge because they were using what a chip consists of. If you see, mainly a chip consists of lot of your digital basic circuits, which are nothing but flip flops and gates. These are all made up of that. All your chip is made up of a basic component like your gate circuits and your flip flops actually, and latches if you have. So it was if you see an electronic numerical integrator and computer was the earliest electronic general purpose computers made. And if you see what is the scale of integration, why do you call it as an ASIC or a VLSI? Initially, when you see, I think you might have done a lot of testing in your labs for an AND gate, an OR gate. All these consist of gate circuits. So when you have a component which is less than 100, about 10 gates, that is it, or 10 about 10 to 10 gates or something, it is called as a small scale integration. Basically, when you do an AND gate testing in your lab, it is nothing but a small scale integration. Then comes slowly the applications increased. For example, initially, if you see the application, I just want an AND gate in order to just verify something. That's it. After that, so slowly it became a full adder. It became a counter. So when it became a full adder, the number of gate circuits is slowly increasing. For a counter, again, it is increasing, and counter consists of a lot of sequential and combination logic coming into picture. In that case, what is happening? Your chip size is increasing. So medium scale integration is like it contains less than around 500 components, which can be about 100 gates. Then came the application like a traffic signal generator. If you go through every day we go through go in the road and we see a junction comes, there is a traffic signal. What does that consist of? Again, it is a chip there to control your 4 junction or 3 junction. There it consists of lot of different components. It not only consists of counters, it has other. So for example, there is a counter. Your counter has to control how much your red signal should be high, how much your green should be high, how much your orange should be high. So it consists of lot of combination and sequential components which again increase the complexity of design. So when the complexity of my design increases, the number of gates also increases. So when you see in a large scale integration, it has more than 10,000 gates. Now comes application, huge applications. Your computer which you play games, laptop which you play games, and so many other things which you do. Nowadays we do an online connection. There's a lot of applications you have in that. You need a memory to store it. I need a lot of memory to store my data. So all these things, what happens is it makes the complexity. I will have a USB port. I will have an Ethernet port. I can have a Wi-Fi port. So all these applications comes into a single chip. So the complexity increases. When the complexity increases, the number of gates also starts increasing. That is how the very large scale integration which came into picture, which has more than lakh of gates in it. Then comes the ultra large scale integration which has more than a lakh of gates. Can you imagine a lakh of gates, and can you imagine a chip size how it will be? If you are imagining a lakh of gate, how much it is? More than 10 lakh of gates means it will be huge. But that all going into a small thin chip. Can you imagine how the technology has developed? So it's interesting in VLSI to understand how this technology is. Okay. Now, if you see a general ASIC or a VLSI flow, what it consists of? For example, I will tell you, you have an idea. You have an idea that you have to put it into a picture, like my phone has to support some additional apps. I should recognize something. Facial recognition is a part of your phone now. Then I should have a what is the main purpose? I'll take a smartphone as an example, because now I should support 5G, which is coming into picture. I should identify a lot many things. Your phone has, what is the purpose of your phone? Initially, it was just a calling, a messaging. That was that. If you see a 20 years back a phone, how big it was like a big phone actually. So every company, when they are planning something, they first will have an idea or a concept. A phone, an iPhone or an iPad or whatever it is, if you take a smartphone, a Samsung phone, first it will came with an idea. Now, what does the idea consist of? You have to have some features into that. For example, my phone should support Ethernet, Wi-Fi. So all this concept will be going into a paper. So first, I need to come up with something called as an architecture of the chip. What do you mean by architecture of the chip? What and all my chip is going to support? How much it is going to support? All these things comes into picture. And now when the architecture comes, first I need to understand how can I design that chip. Before that, I need to understand how it behaves. So from the architecture, there is something called as a design document comes into picture. The design document consists of various features of my phone or whatever it is chip. Various features of my chip is going to support, and what type of language I'm going to use it for coding. So what does it finally is an idea which is converted into a description, an architecture description, which is just called as a specification. The specification consists of how many pins my chip has also. All these things comes into your behavioral description. Now that behavioral description has to be converted into a language which my system can understand. If you see, for example, for an adder, initially to connect few gates and do was very easy. But when the complexity increases, you cannot connect a lot of 100 gates cannot be connected in a paper picture. You cannot put it, and you cannot have that. So for that, you need a language to convert your idea to a machine understandable one. There came the birth of VHDL and Verilog, hardware descriptive languages. So whatever your specification supports, it will be converted into a language which is understandable by my machine, which is mainly two hardware languages, VHDL and Verilog. In the latest trend, you can see System Verilog is also coming into picture. So now what I do is my description is completely converted into a known machine language, which is called as an RTL, that is registered transfer level. So when you give, so if you see here behavioral description, behavioral synthesis happens, which is completely converted into an RTL description. RTL description consists of nothing but coding your gate circuits, your flip flops, whatever it is possible into a language which is possible to understand by the machine. So I write now a coding in Verilog. Okay, I have written the coding in Verilog. Now what is my next important step? The writing a code in Verilog is called as a design. So I am designing something and I'm converting it into a language which a machine can understand, which is an RTL description. Now after I have written this RTL description, I have to verify this. See, when a product is coming into the market, I am telling that this and all is supported. This supports this many apps. You can play the game and everything. But how will you make sure that whatever description or whatever specification you have mentioned in the architecture is supported? How many of you guys, when you start buying a phone, go and see the review and what are all the features it is supported? If your phone is hanging every 5 minutes, will you buy a phone like that? No. You will tell that it is a buggy phone. Correct? So the next important step, which is called as verification, where you make sure that whatever whatever the specifications features are supported in the specification, my chip is supporting it. So I have written the code. Now I have to verify it. That is very important. The verification consists of simulating your RTL code, which is a Verilog or a VHDL code, with respect to different tools. So there are tools in order to do a functional verification. So first you compile your code, then you simulate your code and verify it. So what does the compilation consist of? Compilation is consist of only whether the syntax errors are taken care. Compilation never looks into the feature of the chip. Functional verification, where you simulate the code. How you simulate the code? You need to give different inputs for the value. For example, if you have a chip, for example, you take a adder circuit. In an adder, what is there? There are three inputs, full adder if you take A, B and carry. And your outputs are sum and carry. Correct? Again, sum and carry. A, B, C, three inputs are there. Sum and carry out, carry in and carry out. So what is the circuit supposed to do? It has to add and then it has to give the output as a sum and a carry. That is what it is do. But how will you verify it? You need to give the inputs to A and B and understand whether it is simulating or not. That is what you're doing. So functional verification is a process where you give the inputs, simulate the chip and understand the various functionality of the chip which is supporting is verified or not. So it is very important step in VLSI flow. You're actually simulating it and seeing it. Now after verifying it, now you make sure that the timing is met. What do you mean by timing? I am telling that my chip works at a particular frequency. So you need to understand whether that frequency of the chip is met or not. Timing is very important. I cannot claim a frequency like my chip works at 100 megahertz and it doesn't support. If your speed is not proper for your laptop, what will do? Oh, my speed is very slow. I want to change my system. My processor is runs at a very low speed. So you have to, timing is very important. If your laptop is getting heated every time, will you be happy? No. So I need to do a power verification, which is very important with respect to the latest technology. Once I have completely verified everything, I convert my code into something called as gate level description. What it is? I initially told, no, whenever there is an adder, it is there is a adder will have an XOR gate and an AND gate and all those things. Now what is happening is, whatever the whole code you have written, you're completely changing it into a gate level description. Now why do we need a gate level description? That is your real chip. and you need to simulate the gate level also to understand what is happening. That is a different scenario. We will have some other module telling about it. So now I simulate the gate level description. Whatever the gate level, it simulates, and there also I verify. And now I need to map my chip into a technology. If you see, like now, nanometer is huge. Now 7 nanometer, 5 nanometer, these are all the technologies which they are talking about. What is this nanometer? It is nothing but the thickness of your wafer. Now I need to map whole thing into a wafer. I need to, before that, I need to do a layout verification. What do you mean by layout? In layout, what I do is I have a tool where I put all the gate circuits and transistor level and I simulate it and see whether it's working or not. So that is layout. Then after the layout is also verified, I make sure that my chip is now ready for going for a manufacturing. Now I send it to the fab and different wafers. Wafer is a thin thing actually. Different wafers are produced, and wafer is like a circle, and you will just like cut. Hope you remember, like we make a cake and cut it, right? Same like that. You make a round wafer and cut it, and small chip will be taken out. So I hope you understand the overall flow. From this specification, we do a coding of the we need to understand the behavior of the circuit. From there, we do an RTL description. From there, it comes the functional verification. Then comes the logical synthesis. Synthesis is nothing but a conversion of all your Verilog or VHDL coding into gate level circuit. Then you do a gate level simulation. Finally, you do the laying out of all the transistor level layout. And finally, you do a timing verification in the synthesis. Timing verification, I already told, very, very important. If I give a data, I am expecting that data to come out at a one time, it has to come. Now I go into the verification flow. So what does the verification flow consist of here is, that is very important because you need to understand that. So I already mentioned there is a design specification. From the design specification, it is nothing but a document where it consists of what are all the features are supported, all these things. So from that, a designer has to come up with a RTL coding which is in Verilog or VHDL. So before the design, I have to do an analysis of the design specification. I need to, oh no, sorry, this is the verification flow coming into picture. So I have done the design now. So parallelly, see, the design and verification are all, in a project is a parallel process. What do I mean by that? When the specification is ready, the designer will go and do the designing as per his the specification. Parallelly, the verification team comes up and analyze the design. So what are the features supported? So that is what the next step is: feature extraction and verification plan development. So for example, in my phone, why I am taking smartphone as an example is because that is a common thing you find in everybody's hand nowadays. So you guys can relate very much with respect to a phone. So what are the feature extraction? First, I should calling, an incoming call and outgoing call. Message is very important. WhatsApp is an important feature, correct? And different apps. I have to connect to a Ethernet when I am at home. As soon as, and Wi-Fi. As soon as I step out, it has to immediately change to 3G or 4G. Now it is 4G and moving towards 5G. So these are all the some of the features we have to verify. I'm just taking quite some examples for you guys to understand. So a verification document, what it consists of is all the features, what my chip supported will be taken care, and you develop a plan. What the verification plan consists of is, it consists of the features mainly and how am I going to verify it. I should have something called as a test bench. Test bench development is very important because lot of things, if you see the nowadays RTL IPs are readily available. You tell me memory is readily available, USB readily available. But for integrating everything and verifying, you need to write something called as a test bench. So test bench, there are different components which we will go into it later. So test bench consists of something in order to verify it. Okay. So test bench development, it is again a kind of coding which you will be writing. You will have a specification and you will be converting that specification into a coding. Now, once the test bench is developed, you now have to integrate your RTL coding with respect to this test bench. That means my Verilog coding will be integrated with something related to the coding which you have written. Mostly the early days, the test bench were written in Verilog. Nowadays, the test bench is written in one language called as System Verilog. It is a hardware verification language, and we use a methodology called as Universal Verification Methodology, which is nothing but UVM. Okay, and we integrate both our RTL coding and the test bench coding, and we simulate our RTL design with respect to our verification test bench. And now we are going to do a verification. Now, what is verification means? You have to write lot of test cases. What are test cases? We talked about different features, right? Calling, messaging, all these you need to verify. So these consist of different test cases. Okay, hope you understand. These are the different test cases which I am going to verify now. So I am doing the RTL verification. Now, if one of the feature is not working, then it is a bug. For example, I'm doing something WhatsApping. Suddenly I'm getting a call and I'm trying to answer the call. Okay, when I'm trying to answer the call is not going on. I'm not able to do it. It is getting disconnected. That means it is a bug. Or it can be network issue also, right? So in that case, I need to verify my chip thoroughly and understand if there are any bugs. If bugs are there, I need to indicate to the designer that yes, this feature is not getting supported properly. It is failing. Can you please work on it? So the designer again goes and finds out what is the issue. And finally, he understands there is a bug. He fixes the bug and he comes back with that. I have fixed now the bug. Can you verify? So, and as a verification engineer, you have to verify the whole thing again. You cannot just run that one test case and tell that the feature is fine. No, you have to run again all these test cases and make sure that the chip is working fine. So it is a continuous process like a circle. I verify any bug found. I tell the RTL designer that there is a bug. He fixes the bug. Again, it comes back. You run all the test cases and you make sure that all the test cases are passing. Now my code is ready for freezing. What do you mean by freezing? I'm going for a synthesis. Hope the verification flow is clear. Now we will see what are the different types of verification. So there is an IP or module verification, there is a subsystem verification, and there is an SOC or an ASIC verification. So IP is simple, like you can tell an USB can be taken as an IP and you can verify it. There the features are less and it is nothing but only one module is there. So that one module you are verifying the different features of that module. When it comes to subsystem verification, what happens is it can be a part of an SOC. Now what is an SOC? SOC is a system on chip which consists of your processor and all other peripherals can be there. For example, if you see your laptop, if you see it is an SOC, you will have a processor, a CPU, and you will have some other things also like PCIe, your NVIDIA game chip, your USB, your Ethernet. These are all forming a system on chip. So there, the verification complexity increases. So subsystem may be a part of it. For example, you have a bus, like a PCIe bus, which is connecting to the CPU and one or two devices are connected to it. That becomes a subsystem. So for an IP module verification, the complexity is very less. You can verify it very easily. When it comes to subsystem, 2 to 3 modules are there. The complexity slightly increases. But when it comes to SOC or an ASIC verification, it is huge because there are a lot of complexity there. Interface verification, a module has to be verified. 2 modules have to be connected and verified. From CPU, there is a memory data is going to get written into USB. I'm just taking an example. It doesn't happen like that sometimes. And from the USB, I'm going to give it a, and I change from USB to Wi-Fi, immediately the systems are changing. Okay, so these are all, the complexity increases in an SOC verification. So we'll generally go through how a flow of verification happens. So first we told that it is an implementation happening. So always it is better to start with a paper design where you need to understand what are the test bench components required. So what are the test bench components means there will be a generator, where I will be generating different test cases. I need a driver. What is the functionality of the driver? The driver will take the test case from the generator and it is driving into the DUT. Now I will have something called as monitor. You remember in classes when we are in small child, there is a monitor, class monitor who monitors and tells teacher, okay, this person spoke and all. So the monitor is same functionality here also. What it does is it just understands the inflow of the data into the design and also the outflow of the data into the design. That means a design when you are going to verify is called as design under verification or design under test. So we use a short form which is called as DUT or DUV. So whatever data going into my DUT, I need to have a watch onto it, and whatever coming out of the DUT also I have to watch on it. Why? Because whatever I have given, I need to check whether it is coming correctly. So a scoreboard is a monitor is a mechanism to monitor them, and scoreboard is like a checker. What it does is it compares the data which I have given to the DUT and whatever I have come out of the DUT, it compares and tells, yes, my data is correct now. That is what the functionality. So the component of the test bench I already discussed can be coded using an HVL like System Verilog and UVM methodology or only System Verilog. The components can be connected and a basic test can be created. A simple test can be created for we discussed. And these are all, the test cases all written in verification plan in like a Word document, and they have to be converted into a language which is comfortable. There are different type of test cases. Directed test case, for example, one feature you are verifying is a directed test case. There is a constrained random test case where random data will be given and random applications. For example, I'm calling, I'm doing a WhatsApping, I'm having a Zoom, all these things I'm doing on a phone. I want to test all these things together. So randomly I can pick up some features and test it. Corner cases are conditions which is like you totally forget it. For example, I have implemented a data like there are memories which has implemented which is all supports around 1K. Now I am giving a data slightly greater than 1K. So it has to write it into one memory and the remaining has to go into the next memory. There are a lot. So this is like a corner condition. If my memory supports 1024, I give 1025 so that one bit will go and write it in the next memory. If there is something screwed up, if the address is not correct, the whole data will go for a toss. Error test cases, I write it into an address and I try to read it from some other address. So that kind of conditions are called as error cases. Now I told that we have to run lot of test cases and verify it. So regression is a procedure where you will be running test cases every day. Like first you start with when the chip comes, you start with checking for one test case, then it is added on to, and finally when it is a huge SOC, there will be more than thousands of test cases. And these thousands of test cases every day you have to run on a regular basis to understand where you're actually regressing your regressive test you are doing for your DUT. Now, what do you mean by then? There are two more features which you need to understand, which is called as functional coverage and code coverage. We will look all this into detail in the next session. So, code coverage consists of like whether I have covered all lines of my code or not. This is called as code coverage. Okay, it is very important. Why? Because if one of the line is not covered, you need to understand whether it is an important feature or not. Functional coverage is nothing but I'm checking all the functionalities. We have quoted a lot of functionalities for a phone. So all these functionalities are verified or not. This is a functional verification. Now, when it goes to model level, how can I tell that, yes, I am done. My chip is thoroughly verified. Now I can go for the tape out. For that, there are certain criteria. Some of the criteria is like your coverage. You should have 100% code coverage, 100% functional coverage, and whatever the features you have done it for that module or IP has been covered. And gate level simulation should also pass. That means the timing is also met. So now what is a test bench? How do you know that a circuit works? You have written a Verilog code of a circuit. Does it work correctly? Even if the syntax is correct. Compilation needs catch hold of the syntax. So what exactly it is that you want to anyway. So these are all the test bench is going to do. And you need to test your circuit in advance. That is also there. Idea behind a test bench is using a computer simulator to test your circuit. You need to instantiate a design. You have to give some inputs to it, and you need to check whether the output value is returned correct. So this is how a simple test bench architecture consists of. You have written lot of test cases. There is a driver. Test cases again, I have told that there is a generator to drive it, generate it, sorry, and the driver takes all the test cases and it drives into the DUT. There are monitors which I already talked about, and there is a scoreboard and checker which I already talked about also. So the test cases, different test cases, I take the value from the different test cases. The driver takes it. The driver drives it into the DUT through the input pins. The monitor which is sitting in between the driver and DUT is watching what are all the data which the driver is driving into the DUT. The monitor captures that data and gives it to the scoreboard. Scoreboard is like your cricket scoreboard. I'm watching the scores, right? Same thing. I'm watching the data here. And the DUT is connected to a response generator. Response generator is something like, for example, if I see, okay, I received my data, there is an acknowledgement coming. After that only I can. So most of the circuits will not have a response generator. Now, whatever I'm giving out of the DUT, again, that also has to be monitored, and that again has to be given to the scoreboard. Again, that data is also in the scoreboard, it is added. So now what my scoreboard and checker will do, whatever I have driven, I am checking whether the output is also correct. Whatever the input I have given, is the output correct? For example, you are watching an audio or a video, right? You are watching online streaming is happening. If the data is blurred or you're watching a movie, would you like to see the climax first and then you want to see the movie? No, right? Correct. So you need to understand how the DUT is processing the data. So that is very important, and I will check finally whether the data are matching. So this is consists of the simple test bench architecture. We go more into more detail into the next level, and hope you get an idea about what is a VLSI flow, what is an RTL design, what is RTL verification, how a test bench consists of. So with that, I am done. Any questions? Like